Module 8, Real-World Use Cases of Blockchain. Up to now, everything we've discussed could still feel a little abstract. Money, systems, design, liquidity. So this is the moment when things usually click, because blockchain is not just about money. In many cases, money is actually the least interesting application. Reframing the technology. Remember what we said earlier. Blockchain is a record-keeping system. That's it. So the real question becomes, where do records matter? Where does trust matter? Where does verification matter? And the answer is almost everywhere. If you look at the world through that lens, you start seeing potential use cases in places you wouldn't normally expect. Fractionalisation of real-world assets. Let's start with something familiar. Property. Traditionally, property is expensive, illiquid, difficult to divide, slow to transfer. If 5 people wanted to co-own a building, it requires legal structures, paperwork, and trust between parties. Blockchain allows ownership records to be digitalised, divided into smaller units, transferred digitally, recorded transparently. Think of it like turning a large, indivisible asset into shares in a company. You're not digitalising the building itself, you're digitalising the record of ownership. That record becomes more flexible, more divisible, more programmable. The asset doesn't change, the record keeping does. Supply chains and provenance. Now think about supply chains. When you buy a product, questions often arise. Where did this come from? Was it ethically sourced? Has it been tampered with? Is it authentic? In traditional systems, supply chain records are often fragmented, stored in different databases, controlled by individual organisations. Blockchain allows each step in a supply chain to be recorded, time-stamped, shared across participants. Imagine a digital logbook that every participant can update, but nobody can secretly alter. If shipment moves from factory to port to warehouse to retailer, each step is recorded chronologically. Once recorded, it becomes extremely difficult to falsify. That increases accountability without requiring blind trust between parties. Manufacturing and production lines. In global manufacturing, parts cross borders. Suppliers interact across continents. Errors are costly. Disputes often arise over who shipped what, whether quality checks were performed, whether deadlines were met. Blockchain can serve as a shared audit trail. Instead of each company maintaining its own private records, participants interact with shared, synchronised record. Think of it like everyone writing in the same notebook. Instead of maintaining separate versions that need constant reconciliation, this doesn't replace factories or logistics systems, it connects them up with a shared truth. Medical records. Healthcare is another powerful example. Today, medical records are often fragmented across institutions, stored in incompatible systems, difficult to share securely. Patients may have one record at a hospital, another at a clinic, and another with a specialist. Blockchain can enable tamper-resistant medical records, patient-controlled access permissions, verified history without duplication. Think of it as a master index that allows authorised professionals to access verified data without each institution needing to trust the others blindly. Privacy is preserved, integrity is strengthened. Identity and verification. Identity is a growing global challenge. In many systems today, proving who you are requires submitting large amounts of personal data, trusting organisations to store it securely, repeating verification processes multiple times. Blockchain can support verifiable credentials, proof without over-disclosure, reduced identity fraud. Imagine being able to prove you're over 18, you hold a qualification, you are authorised to access a service, without revealing your full address, your entire history, your unnecessary personal details. Is a difference between showing a full file and showing a certified stamp that confirms one fact. Settlement and clearing. Behind the scenes in finance, settlement is more complex than most people realise. When you buy shares, the trade may appear instant, but final settlement can take days. Multiple intermediaries are involved, clearing houses, custodians, reconciliation teams. Each layer adds cost and delay. Blockchain enables near instant settlement, shared ledgers, reduced reconciliation steps. Instead of multiple parties updating separate records and reconciling them later, they interact with a shared record in real time. This is one of the areas seeing significant institutional experimentation and adoption. Tokenisation of real-world assets. Another growing area is tokenisation. This means representing assets, contracts, rights as programmable digital tokens. Not as speculative instruments, but as structured digital records. For example, a bond, a piece of infrastructure, a licensing agreement. The underlying asset remains real. The record becomes programmable. That can reduce paperwork, improve transparency, and automate compliance. Why this matters? The key insight here is this: blockchain is not about disruption for its own sake. It's about reducing friction, improving transparency, increasing resilience, lowering coordination costs. Whenever multiple parties need to agree on a shared record, blockchain becomes relevant. Money just happens to be where it started, because money is fundamentally a record of ownership. What blockchain is becoming? What we're seeing now is a shift from crypto is money to blockchain is infrastructure. Think about the internet. In the early days, it was novel, misunderstood, associated with niche communities. Today, it's invisible. It underpins communication, commerce, logistics, media, government services. You don't use the internet, you use services built on top of it. Blockchain appears to be following a similar path, from visible novelty to invisible infrastructure. Neutral reality check. It's important to stay grounded. Not every blockchain project will succeed. Not every use case requires blockchain. Not every industry benefits from decentralisation. Sometimes traditional databases work perfectly well. But where trust is expensive, verification is slow, records are disputed, and coordination is complex, blockchain can offer meaningful advantages. It's a tool, and like any tool, its usefulness depends on the problem. Transition to the future. So now we've seen where blockchain is used today, why it matters beyond speculation, and how it operates as an infrastructure. The final piece is understanding where this is heading, because adoption rarely happens overnight. It happens gradually, often quietly, and often without headlines. That brings us to the final module, Module 9, the future of blockchain technology.